This is a chart of different ways in which the dry blood will show various types of symptoms or pathologies or contamination or, you know, a whole variety of things that you can see in dry blood. And we begin by looking at this sample, which is a perfect sample of dry blood. That's just, the little compartments here are just dry blood cells, right? That's perfectly, there's
what it should look like.
That's what it should look like. Red, saturated, there's no oxidative stress, nothing else is going on here. This is the other extreme. This is the extreme going from here, this is at the other end of the spectrum, this is rusted out blood.
Ooh.
This is blood where you see all of these white areas. That's oxidative stress, basically.
Okay.
That's like if you leave your car in the rain without a sealant, you're gonna.
Yeah, or the rust and all that stuff. That's
That's
amazing.
how that works.
Okay.
Right. So we're going from here to here, and
Okay.
most people are obviously somewhere in between. But if I see this, if I'm seeing something at that level, it's not necessarily malignancy, but it's on the way to malignancy, almost certainly, right?
Okay.
This is an image I like to share because I have a personal example of that. Here's an image of what's called lymphatic rosary. Okay, so this is where the lymph system is now becoming oxidized, right? It's becoming stressed or sluggish, or, you know, and it will show up because the blood is holographic. When you're looking at a blot of blood, there's top, bottom, right, left, inside, outside, right? So it's holographic in terms of wherever you're seeing those issues, whether it's oxidative stress or parasitic infection or whatever it happens to be, it'll show up in that part of the blood that's going to mirror that part of the body. Okay, so the lymph system circulates. So as a result, we're seeing a circular pattern in the dry blood, and this is an example of that. This is an actual client. That's an example of the lymphatic rosary.
This is a bad one.
That's a bad one. That's got this sort of white circular pattern. It may be hard to discern.
So let me show with this. If you can see, this is good blood.
That's the perfect sample.
Right there, good blood. And then this is the oxidated blood.
Right.
And then this is the lymphatic, the circular with the lymphatic. Okay.
And another example of the holographic indicators, and by that I mean, you know, the blood is showing you where the problem is, right? So here you have this congestion in the middle of the blot. That's the colon, that's the digestive system.
So even though you're taking it from your finger, you can see
it's holographic.
You can see that in your colon, that's what's
It's
going
showing
on.
the blood under the microscope. We can see it's like a mirror.
Okay.
Right? And so it's insane.
Okay.
So I have another chart I'll have to bring it and show you. There's a chart comparing the dry blood to iridology. I don't know if you've ever seen
with the eyes.
It's a one-to-one correlation.
Okay.
It's the same thing. So the eyes can also mirror in the same way that the blood does. And I know people who do both.
that,
Not too
yes.
many, but so this is a great example of, you know, colon stress. And here you have an even more extreme issue where the white circles indicate inflammation. That's oxidative stress or inflammation. So this is not too bad.
So can you tell like someone's colon from this without even getting a colonoscopy?
Yes.
You can be like, yeah, you obviously have colon issues
Yes.
if this is what it is.
And if that's there, there's most
That's
likely.
amazing. Look at that. Where is this one? It's the second one right here. That's mild. And that's a really bad inflamed colon blood.
Exactly.
And you can see this from a drop of blood.
From a drop of blood. And so all of these other issues in between are various other kinds of, you know, like this would indicate joint inflammation. There's another one here that indicates parasitic infection. There's something called parasite markers. And short story, one of the most dramatic, and I have it on in a file, I'll have to bring it back at some point, but there's a client I work with in Mexico. He had knee pain for years. Nobody could figure out what was going on. When I hear knee pain, I usually think automatically Lyme disease because there's usually a correlation, but I can't just jump to that conclusion without looking. So I took his sample, and in his blood sample, it looked like this otherwise. This is like a perfectly healthy sample, but there were two white, perfectly formed circles, white dots in the blot. And it was clear to me when I looked at it that that was his knee pain.
His knees.
And right on top of those blots were parasitic markers. They looked like kind of a starburst pattern, and they were right over each blot. So that was a holographic picture showing me that there was a parasitic issue with his knees, with
That's
all his information in his
amazing.
knees. right in the
Versus
blood.
having arthritis
Yes,
or something
yes,
else you
exactly.
can fine tune.
Yes. You
to
can see
what
you
it
can see the
is.
parasitic infection. that's
That
there.
is just blows my
Thank you.
mind.
Well, you're a woman of great vision because
I
most
mean,
people
you can
don't get there
see,
as
I'm just
quickly.
showing, this is some of the stuff that you can see on here. The acidity level, you can see the adrenals, food allergies,
Right,
thyroid, kidney, lymphatic,
Right.
hearts,
right,
cholesterol,
Right.
environmental allergies.
yes. And
Um,
trauma. So if you look at this picture, that's an extension from the blot, right? That looks like just kind of something poking out from the blot. and you'll be
Yes.
able to see it. That's a head injury. So if
So
there's
instead of a round circle, because it sticks out, you can tell it's
if
an
there's any kind of a blunt force trauma or a surgical intervention, there'll be some kind, and I'll show you other examples of that. There'll be some kind of distortion of the boundary of the blood cell.
So right here, instead of having being round, it sticks out, and that's the trauma right there. So you can tell if you had a head trauma through a drop of blood.
And you can see where if we're taking 6 or 7 blots, let's say that marker appears 3 or 4 blots down from the beginning, we're going back in time by looking at that, right? So we take the person's age and we divide the number of blots into the age, and that's giving us kind of like tree rings, a rough idea as to when that issue was going. So I can look, if I didn't know you, if I didn't meet you or do your health history through doing this work and looking at dry blood, I would be able to say
We're
something.
gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna look at my dry blood and see what it looks like. And I might see an injury that I probably had no idea I even had. Because sometimes you have trauma and you block it out.
That's right. Yes,
So,
that's right.
but then you can fine tune, like, okay, this happened when you were like 10 years old, 12 years old.
Many cases of cancer, Lyme disease, any kind of chronicity, oftentimes will have its inception in a car accident, or a prior surgery, or an emotional.
Yeah, because it's a
trauma.
weak point in the body, so it will come up
Right.
in that weak point.
Right.
That's amazing.
So
All right.
Because the tissues, it's all layered. So even though it looks like we're taking something in the present moment, there's something called coagulation factors in the blood that account for these layers of evidence that we can see when we go back in time.
Okay.
and look at the blood.
Well, I will also post my results on mine. And we might actually video
Yeah.
my blood
That'd be
test and see what this looks like, because this is amazing and everyone should have this, just even as a diagnostic. But I'm curious to see, once we find this, okay, now how do we
Then we start.
how do we
treating.
correct it or treat it? Yeah, this is awesome.
So here's sort of the